Welcome to another edition of Up and Knitted. I'm your host, Adrian Babashoff, and if you're new here, welcome as well. And if you're wondering what the show is about, it's entirely dedicated to improving quality of life for both people and planet through liberation and independence, moving you from surviving to thriving and living life raw. Broadcasting to you guys live from my F-350 diesel pickup truck, so that's the background noise. Sorry about that. We're having to do most of these shows on the road on our work commute. So today's episode 142. Yeah, we're getting up there. This also is a potty mouth podcast, so listener and viewer discretion advised. But today I want to talk about what to look for in home relocation. So we've got a lot of people who are going to be displaced, I think after the first, this is 2020 by the way, the last week of December. And from what is said, a lot of things have been said and some things haven't happened, but some things were said and things did happen. And what they're saying right now is about 40 million estimated home evictions are going to be handed out. I guess this is to renters. The moratorium has ended unless the government's doing something I don't know about. I don't really watch the news too much. I'm too busy coming up with solutions to problems like the one we're talking about today of having to relocate and finding a new home and what to look for. So we're on a rampage right now we're triggered by all this madness, the Great Reset, and all this craziness happening all over the world. And there are some people asking me some questions on what they think I should do as far as relocating. What kind of house? Where do we go? How do we find a house? Well, there's lots. This can go very, very far. We should break this up into increments. Well, I only have 30 minutes really for each podcast, so we're going to try to only consist of 30 minutes. And let's get right into it instead of blabbering off. But hello to you and a good morning from Sunnyside, California, San Diego, California, and I'm on my work commute as I said. So let's get on. My first choice is going to be RV living, and that's exactly what I do. I've already made an entire show on full-time RV living. So I know a lot of you guys might get confused where it's RV living on the road, you're always moving around. No, I'm talking about getting a fixed place to live. And I've said this on the show before, you should check it out, full-time RV living, what to look for. I go in detail how to buy one, how to set one up, how to maintenance. But the thing I just want to give you guys here today is that there's places here, for instance, where I live in Sunnyside, California, I'm paying $850 to $900 a month. For a spot, and what's included is not electricity, your trash and your water. So it's relatively cheap. Some of you who are in other parts of the States or in the world would probably be like, oh my God, that's expensive. Well, to put it in perspective, if I wanted to rent a house, you can imagine about more than double that. Probably more likely like triple that. And now we're looking at we can get a house. So it's pretty ridiculous, but I want to go into reasons why I live in this area and why it's conducive to my lifestyle design. So getting on backtrack though is I'm up paying $850, $900 a month when I can go to Texas, a state of Oregon, Arizona, all these different places where I can legally live full-time in an RV park for about half of what I'm paying here. I've heard that it's down low as like $350. I've actually found an RV park in the mountains, in the middle of nowhere, for $400 a month, outright, maybe about an hour's drive from where I live. So there's always stuff if you're down and out and you need a place to stay. And the reason I like the living mobile in an RV or a travel trailer is that if shit hits the fan, you're able to pick up and you're gone within days. Especially if you're not living full-time like I am. It'd take me about a week or so before I'd handle all my business and everything, get everything cleaned up and all that kind of stuff. But if you're just throwing out your awning and some lawn chairs and you're there and you're just looking for work, getting yourself going, you can't find a job, guess what? You can relocate. You don't like for any reason, you're basically up and you're at the next area with your house like a backpack. It's relatively cheap. Here in the United States, we can get them for about $12,000 to $20,000. Gets you a pretty decent rig. It's already got a hot shower. These things run off DC and AC electricity. For those of you who don't know what that is, DC runs off batteries. So you can run solar. What's nice is that if there's a natural disaster where you're at, a lot of these things have their own generators. They have their own water holding capacities. Your refrigerator will automatically, if you put it on a sensor, switch from natural gas to DC to regular AC electric, so you never really have to mess with stuff. It's kind of automated for you. So a lot of good points about living in an RV. relatively quick, very quick, the quickest, the easiest way. Oh shit, we got to get out of here now. Bam, you're gone. So for those of you who are going to move into a house, look for something that's facing south. At least here in the United States, that's where we get our most sun. Find a backyard if you're renting, even if you're buying, relocating. Find a backyard that's got enough area to capture photosynthesis, because that's what we're doing mainly with plants. I think it's one of the most important things. You can amend your soils and you're going to get some stuff, but the most important is if you don't have enough sun, you're not really going to grow much. Everything's going to get pretty stunted. So in this podcast, we talk a lot of diversity as far as survivalism, hard times, economic times, improving quality of life, whether times are good or times get crazy. So I think that a lot of people, besides relocating, are probably going to want to relocate with a purpose. And that's what I look at, is how much is your home serving you? So a lot of us, I think the best thing we can do is choose a home, whether we're renting or buying, that's got plenty of sunlight. You want to watch for certain things like shade trees. Trees in general could be bad. You got to look in your neighbors' backyards and make sure they ain't got some big old pine trees growing or something like that. Make sure there's nothing that's going to obscure the sunlight from your backyard. Other good thing though too is to consider is that if there's fruit trees on the property. I don't know where you guys are at, but where I'm at, there's tons of avocados, peaches, apples, limes, lemon trees, and sometimes that could be an added plus. Sometimes there's alleyways I've seen, which I used to do when I lived in the big shitty, as I call it. There was alleyways and there was oranges, trees, and apple trees and stuff just leaning over into the alleyway. And it's legal to pick. I think it's nice of you to ask the people though, if you're able to pick some, a little bit of fruit. But a lot of people, they don't even care. I've seen avocados where they're like, please pick them all. They're dirty in my backyard and I hate the damn things. So you can forage basically in the city. So look for things like that. So as we're going in here, as you guys can tell, we want to talk about garden possibilities. If you're buying a house, make sure, like I said, you got clearance with sun and everything. I don't think you guys need to ask permission. But what you might want to check out if you are relocating, whether you're renting or buying, is try to find other people that are doing what you're doing. Basically where I'm going with this in short, see if you could find people who are gardening somewhat on their front lawns. We just talked about that in yesterday's podcast about turning lawns into gardens and the abundance that they're living in the city. But yeah, you kind of want to steer away from preppy people, I think, that would be the frown upon you having a tomato bush wrapped inside your shrubs and stuff like that. Try to find a place where you can at least have a little bit of freedom and actually garden, utilize that otherwise unused space. I would say the next thing is livestock would be a plus, if you can. Even if you're not going to do it, just knowing that you can. And you don't have to get crazy. You can do small animals like rabbits and quail, maybe 2 chickens to produce eggs. At least having the opportunity, or others around you, as I said, other people doing things like this, that maybe you can barter trade or work out some sort of deal where they've got the livestock and maybe you can help out and trade for eggs and meats and stuff like that, or maybe vegetables. So livestock is definitely a plus. Livestock really goes, just to give you guys some tips, you can raise tilapia, you can raise bluegill fish, and they're virtually silent. Nobody would even know that you even had them. Get yourself a few of those IBC totes, or if you got the money, make yourself a big old giant pond. Add some a filtration system to it. You can change the water out and you can raise yourself some protein right there. As far as how lucrative it goes, I don't know. It depends on the size, the feed, and what you got going on. That could be a podcast all in and of itself. So moving forward, windows for indoor growing. A lot of houses, the reason why I say this is a lot of houses are butt up to each other in these cities I see. And I don't understand why someone would pay actually that much money. I understand why they'd build them that way, because they can make more money and they're utilizing more land. But literally some of these houses you can hand a roll of toilet paper from one bathroom window to the other. And it's ridiculous. And I think I've heard some people say living in a mobile home or living in an RV park, you have no privacy. It's the same shit in these houses. The only thing that divides you is a fence. You got more of a soundproof barrier, a wall between you and them. But pretty much you open up your window, you'd be washing dishes, staring at your neighbor washing dishes right across from you, and you can pretty much lip read each other. So The point, though, I want to make here is that we want a house that produces something for us. And I think that's where I'm getting with all of this, is that I think it's ridiculous that a lot of these properties they're not very conducive. They're more of a place to eat up your money with heating and cooling, and we're not thinking about utilizing a home as a tool, whether you're renting or not. We spend more time out of our homes working than we actually do in our homes. Things may change to where we don't have a job. I think a lot of people are freaking out, and maybe we need to utilize what we have as far as like growing things like sprouts and microgreens. For those of you who don't know, sprouts is just like getting some alfalfa seeds. You put them in a mason jar, a glass jar, wet them, rinse them, repeat. You can grow a whole entire jar full of healthy, nutritious sprouts of seeds, and you eat those things. They're high end. They're pretty expensive. I think I priced them out at like $4 for not even a pound, just a little tiny box of them at the grocery store. Microgreens are something you put on a tray, and you put some soil, and then you sprinkle a bunch of seeds in there, and then things like wheatgrass and sunflowers and peas. The sunflower and peas are some of my favorite. But you need light for these things in order for them to grow. The sprouts, not necessarily so much. They can be in the dark, but once they start growing, they're going to be like yellow. If you stick them for a few hours, a half a day or a day on your bright windowsill, not necessarily even direct sun, it'll green them up and make them really beautiful. If you've got a south-facing window and you're growing microgreens, you've got a good ticket right there. If you've got a couple of windows that way. So yeah, you want to utilize that. I used to live in a house that actually in Ontario, California, one of the armpits, and this thing actually had a cellar. And cellars are pretty cool. I think these are designs in homes that a lot of, especially Americans, I don't know about the rest of the world, have kind of forgotten. We've been hybridized, and we've been domesticated, and a lot of us kind of go a cellar for what? Geothermal, people, folks. That's when we build a little room underneath the ground, and what happens is the thermal temperatures of the ground stays relatively the same. So meaning that if you had a root cellar, a basement underground, you would have a temperature relatively of like 50 to 65 degrees year round, almost no matter where you live. So it'd be relatively cool, and how deep it is. Why would you want something like this? Because if you're growing potatoes or canning, you have like a pantry and you want to do some food preservation, it's a really, really nice space to utilize. It doesn't take any energy. It's dark, it's relatively moist and cold. It's perfect places to store such things as large quantities of potatoes and root crops and things like that. And it's also a really nice place to hang out when it gets really hot. So, and the other thing is a pantry. If people don't know what a pantry is, which I think they do, I'm not knocking you, but we got to really start from square one. I've met some people, and they're adults in my age in their 40s, and they kind of look and they're like, a pantry for what? Like, a pantry to organize your food, to do such thing as copy canning. Look it up. When something goes on sale and you buy some stewed tomatoes and you says buy one get one free, you buy two and get two free, and you just stockpile those things up for your food collections for emergency times, or using at your home for times like this when things get a little weird and we need to save some cash. So a well-organized pantry with such things as pasta noodles, rice, beans, canned vegetables, soups, all of these things to be labeled and run like a business. As we've said this before on the show, where you rotate. So if you buy a can of tomato sauce, let's say, if that expires in December, you use that one from December. The one that expires in March, you stick that one towards the back. So you're always utilizing. You only buy things that you're actually using, and you stockpile them. So a pantry, I think, and you can lock out the little critters, your kids, from going in there and eating stuff, and you can actually make sense. You can write down in notes, take inventory, and every time you take something, you scratch one line off, a number off the board, and you actually know by a glance what you got, instead of people just freely going in and picking stuff. I love you girls, but you guys are ridiculous. I talk a lot about this. I am a spin farmer, an urban farmer. In the city, or whether you're in the country, no matter where you're going, you might want to consider finding places where there, as I said, where there's other people gardening, or where you're allowed to garden, and where you can have access. Because if you're living in an RV park, such as I am, there's no yard to really grow. Although I utilize my space very wisely, I've got probably enough area to grow about 20 different plants, maybe even more. with my biodegradable container gardening systems, which, by the way, I think I always leave a link if anybody's interested to my biodegradable container gardening methods. Something completely new to the world. I think it's going to help a lot of people grow their own food and help people get interested and basically do my part to help save the planet, make it a better place. But yeah, for those of you who don't know, I live in an RV and I don't have a yard at all. And I've got 40, 50 different offers. I utilize Facebook to find my plots, and I'm growing my own food. And I don't even own the land. I don't pay the taxes. I don't have to worry about nothing. I pay the water bill, which with my methods is maybe $4 a month to grow about 300 different varieties of plants on my plot, maybe even more. I think we might be up to like 400 soon. So yeah, it's relatively cheap and easy, and keep an eye out. Keep the spin farm options always open. If you live in, I think, a very, very tight city, you're kind of limited. I think being downsizing and living minimal and practicing essentialism, I think that you might want to consider, if you are moving to a city, what is the transit system like? Because where I live, it sucks. I never really thought about this because I've got enough money. I live life relatively unaffected by a lot of all this stuff, and I never really think that, oh, maybe I'd be without a vehicle or something. But when certain individuals would come visit me, they didn't have a vehicle, and they depended on me to take them to such things as the grocery store, or the drugstore, or wherever they're going. And I noticed that there's not much of a transit system. Actually, there's none. You have to walk pretty damn far. So if you're really hard on the wire and things are getting really bad for you, consider getting a home where you can transit. I mean, if you have an emergency, you got to go pick up medications for people, and especially if you're relocating into a place where you don't have any friends, you don't know anybody, you're going to rely on yourself. You might want to consider definitely looking at the transit system. Better yet, what I would recommend is finding a place. If you're having to start out and you're not sure how to go about doing this, is finding an RV park or a house rental of places where you can do a walk-to job. So use your Chevrolet legs, as we call it, your Chevy. It's a joke. That's what my mom says, Chevrolet legs. I've never heard it before. But yeah, using your own your body to get to where you need to go. Get yourself a nice backpack. You can walk to the grocery store, drugstore if you need to. Entertainment, work, I think would be the best thing. Maybe some parks and things like that. Which, by the way, RV living is pretty awesome where I live. Even though it's next to a freeway, there's a giant lake there. You can go fishing. There's some parks. You could have fires and stuff like that, and you can camp. There's just some really, I've seen some with hiking trails and stuff like that, so it's pretty cool. So yeah, walk to places. I mean, if you can spin farm and walk to a spin farm area, the better. Just try to utilize that. Think about these things I'm saying and strategize on your new move. I think another one would be a garage space. If you can, find a place that has the biggest amount of garage lot area. This could be turned into a shop. There's all kinds of different things, as I was talking about yesterday's podcast, where you can manufacture things out of recycled pallets. You can build little planter boxes. You can chainsaw. Go and find yourself some old logs and make tiki gods and things like that with a chisel and whatever that fancies you. You can start many things, but you need the space to be able to work out of, and I think it's just an added plus. And especially if you're getting it for the same price as what you would say an apartment or something. Maybe you got a house with a garage. It's definitely nice to have, even if as a secondary. I think in these hard times we need to pivot. We need to have options, and I think a garage really opens up options for you. I know it would for me. I built myself a shed, an 8 by 10 foot, where I live in my RV spot because it's permissible, and that used to be my office and everything. And now my oldest daughter, which is going to be 14 this year, or I'm sorry, I think she's going to be 15, and she needs her own space away from my special needs daughter, and I just gave it to her. I soundproofed the whole thing. It was stacking functions. It was a dog house for my dog. It was a napping area, an office. I padded and stuffed the entire walls with recycled jeans, soundboard, and carpet. So it was a studio where I was able to do my earlier shows, yelling and screaming, and it's soundproof, or play music in there. So, but now, unfortunately, I gave it up. Well, fortunately, because I love my kids, and my daughter's got her private space. Also, you guys might want to consider in the RV note is that I actually found that they have RV storage behind the RV park where I live. And I've seen it in mobile home parks as well, where I went and purchased myself a 30-foot and also a 40-foot shipping container. So that's kind of my garage storage area. And I only pay about $2 or $4 a foot. So it's cheaper for me than getting a storage unit someplace. And I could also turn around and sell my storage containers when I'm done with them, if you still have the money and capacity to do something like that. So anyhow, always look for opportunities, some sort of work area. For me, I don't have electricity at my shipping containers, but I can take my emergency generator and I can go run saws and things like that. Another one I'd like to point out, when I was looking for houses back when my children were born, and almost every house I have, I looked for something I could drive my vehicle into the backyard, rather, not into the house. That would be nice though. Surprise everybody, Daddy's home, you know, revving up the motor, playing my favorite 80s, 90s rock music. But yeah, a backyard that you can drive in. I work and haul trailers and stuff like that. Maybe some of you would like to have a travel trailer in case shit hits the fan, you got to leave your home, you want a place to park it. It's really, really convenient, very, very nice. If you want to garden in your backyard, it's really nice to bring large amounts of compost and stuff like that into your backyard by truck or by trailer. It just makes things a hell of a lot easier than having to wheelbarrow through a gate. So it's an added plus if you can find it. I thought I would throw it in there because it was very convenient for my business, everything. I kind of want to move now. Well, let's speak about this. Let's think about some hustle now. About strategically area where to live. First, let's talk about what's possible. I want to talk about my lawn care service, pool care service. I think I've mentioned this to you guys before. It was a concept I came up with, and then I dry ran it, meaning I went door to door and knocked on people's doors to see if they would accept my offer. And I would say 90% of them did. So here's a tool for you guys. No matter where you're located, you can look for cleaning up, like gardening someone's house, or like meaning cutting their lawns and things like that, or maintaining, like say shoveling snow, whatever it is. Wherever you place yourself, you can go door to door, and I think that you need wealthy people around you. We're going to talk about that. That's like the sweet spot. But you want to place yourself in an area where you can go door to door, whether you're washing cars, you can do washing RVs, washing boats, shoveling snow, cleaning gutters, mowing lawns, maintaining a pool, pet sitting, whatever. You can go door to door and say, hey, I offer pet sitting, I offer car washes and all this kind of things, and here's my price. You can ask them, if most people would say, well, I already have a gardener. For instance, what I didn't do pool service because I don't really know much about it. I think it's not that big of a deal to learn, but I went and said, I'd like to mow your lawn at a cheap price. So basically, I'm sorry, I didn't tell them what my price was, and I asked them, I said, well, what are you paying a month to have your lawn care done? First person said $80. I said, that's interesting. What do they do exactly? So I can kind of get a framework before I say commit to something. So I tell them, once I heard what they did, I says, well, how about I tell you I can do your lawn for $70 a month? And they said, that sounds great. When can you start? And I basically, when I opened up, I says, it was my neighbors. They've seen me. We didn't really know each other. But they said, yeah, when can you start? I said, well, I'm just trying to check this out first. What I'm basically getting at is I need to get everybody in my neighborhood, as many people as involved as I can. And the gist of this is that most businesses, especially lawn care, pool care, stuff like that, is they're bouncing around all over the city to different locations. Now, if you're able to segregate just a box, compartmentalize something, automation here, and you're able to mow one lawn where you're pushing a lawnmower and you can literally go over the driveway onto the next lawn and onto the next lawn, 3 lawns at a row, you're just zigzagging back and forth. You don't really even need to, in my case, I wouldn't even need to have a truck to leave my house. I could pull all my stuff on a wagon. And what's happening, I'm spending less gas because I wouldn't even need a vehicle to do this, but I'm saving people money and I'm gaining all my clients because I'm giving them a cheaper deal and everything's localized. So I thought that was a tip that I could share with you guys. Even if it's not your neighbors and you drive to a certain area, you can still do this. Just hit one area and you want to find people with money, and you're just going to go door to door. And trust me, I know you're probably scared, but you got to stop being scared of the word no. It's 2 little letters, and all it means is that, hey, maybe the next person will. Get your strength out. Stop Stop caring what people think of you. When you get hungry enough, I think that's all going to go out the window. But so I gave you guys a tip there that I actually tried and it worked, and I think that's going to help a lot of people with whatever business you're doing. My last one here is going to be, where do I locate? Where is the best area? I found when I used to live in Ontario, California, it was an armpit, and there was some wealthy people up in the foothills and stuff. So if you guys ever go look at a bird's eye view of a town, a city, and what you're going to notice is all the rich people group up in one area, and then they kind of have the poor people living in a different area. And some of these cities are very big, and what I like about where I live now, in contrast to where I used to live, there was a lot of poor to middle class to upper middle class, I'm going to call it, if that's even a thing. So there wasn't really that much money involved. To where I move now, the reason I strategically placed myself here is that there's mansions around here. These are $1 million homes. That's telling me that these people got money. And through my experience of living here for the past 5-6 years in San Diego, California, North County, it serves me very, very, very well. It would behoove you, I think, for a lot of you guys to take this same example, whether you're living in an RV, whether you're living in a mobile home, whether you're going to rent a house. If you're going to buy a house, I think you're kind of screwed, but because usually they make it so difficult for people there, you're not going to really get a great deal. But if it's worth it for you to drive a half hour, I would say hour would be my max, to an area, and you're able to do, as I say, drop your vehicle, go around, mow lawns, do lawns, dog sit, whatever you're doing, I think it might be worth it for you. But it's really nice. One good thing I can say for the pool business and the lawn care business, and finding out who has money, who doesn't, is get on Google Maps or Google Earth. You know, what you can do is you can scroll over cities, and a good indication that people have money is that there's a pool in their backyard. This is going to serve as other things, is it's showing you who's got a pool, and so if you want to go door to door, you can mark down these areas and know which ones to go to and which ones not to. You can literally do this on your phone as you're walking down door to door with Google Maps. Get on the satellite imagery view, and before you knock on a door, you can look. They don't even have a pool. It saves you the time of knocking on the door and wasting someone's time. But it also shows you lawns. You can see nice green patches and things like that, or maybe a bunch of trees that you can do some tree trimming. Maybe somebody has a horse property or something. Maybe you can help them with their animals, things of that nature. So it tells you a lot. And it also shows you where the wealthy people are and where the fringe starts and where it ends. And I think that fringe living, fringing the wealthy, is definitely going to put money in your pocket, especially if you're renting. If you're home buying, I think you might have a little bit of problems there. I hope I wasn't rambling on. I hope I expressed myself clearly. I understand some people said maybe it's not the case. I have been considering stopping this show. We have very slow momentum here. We do have listeners from all over the world, and I'm very thankful and grateful for all of the people we have listening. It seems like it's growing momentum very, very slowly, but you guys, it's like talking to a brick wall. I only do these shows in 30-minute segments because I'm paying to do these podcasts, and I don't have enough storage space to do more. And I want to do more, but I also want to get, it makes me excited to hear what you guys want to hear about, what you guys think. And I really, really right now am wanting to know what I can clean up if I suck. You know, I'm almost wondering if I suck because I don't get any comments really. And I understand people are freaked out right now and very busy with things. But you guys, please, if you do like the show and you want it to go on, all I'm asking is go down to my mail, everything in the show notes down below. If you guys scroll down the information, you'll see there's an upandinitshow@gmail.com. Just send me a quick email, man. Just say, hey, what's up? Good job. Hey, fuck you, you suck. I don't give a shit. You know, I teach what I practice. I practice what I preach on the show. Is I really don't give a shit. And for those of you who are worried that I am going to quit, if I do, I'll do a final episode. But I'm not necessarily quitting on the podcast. I'd probably go more into video and maybe more into writing. Maybe just audio is not my thing. Maybe I'm just jumbling things up. I don't know. But either way, I still want to bring content to you guys. So you can probably, if I do YouTube, maybe I'll try my hand at videos. I'm not giving up, for sure. It'll either be that or a blog. And we'll do some writing about the journeys and the things that can help people live, improve quality of life for them and the planet. That's my gig, man. That's what I love to do. So thank you guys so much for being here. Check out the show at Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, and anywhere where there's the Apple iTunes and stuff like that, where there's podcasts. It's all up and in it. Excuse me. Fumbling on my words there. But as I always say, guys, go out there and have yourself a near-life experience. Don't lose your muchness. Carry on the fire. Human up. Live it, love it, own it, and bone it, my friends.